John and I were having a blast back here talking about Pennsylvania high school basketball. Yeah, so I mean, he would know more of what maybe he has seen over his tenure.
Coach Calipari?
It's changed. It's changed for all of us. It's changed from internet to draft lists to the gazillions in the NBA. It's all that stuff has made this different, our jobs different. I will tell you, we have universities here around this country, some of the top, that encourage genius and kids to move on and do their thing if they've stayed 1 or 2 years. As a matter of fact, they'll invest in them financially, and they'll tell them, if it doesn't go, you can come back. Your position in this campus will always be there. But I don't understand why it's a problem if it's the same with basketball players. These kids have a genius. Our jobs are to help them grow on and off the court, to help them become better men, to be prepared for society, yet they're chasing a dream and they have a genius. And their genius isn't just athleticism or size, or there's no way you can be special at this sport unless you have the right kind of mind. And so, you know, our kids, you know, some have stayed 1 year, some have stayed 2, 3, some have stayed 4. We've graduated kids in 3 years. We've had 10 kids graduate. We'll have 4 on this year's team. That's in 6 years. We've had 2 of those kids graduate in 3 years. We've had a 3.0 grade point average for 5 straight years. Last semester was a 3.1. 13 out of 16 kids had a 3.0 or better. I mean, that may aggravate you to hear that, but that's the truth. We both have jobs and help our kids reach their dreams. Some of them can leave after a year, others can't. They stay.
Yeah,
Right.
Going back, what I agree totally with is the entertainers, the people who are talented in other areas that end up going and doing something and going out of school, thinking later to come back that maybe they'll get their degree, maybe they won't. You never hear about those people. It only comes up, and John has to face those type of questions a heck of a lot more than I do. But really, in college, if people are stepping away, I don't call it dropping out, they're stepping away to pursue their passion. So if it happens, I'm sure there's still a connection there later. Guys can take care of business. I can't tell you how many players on a different scale that played 4 years were pretty good, but not good enough for the NBA. A lot of them have like 8 credits, 15 credits, 20-some credits left to go. At Wisconsin, you cannot take classes, paper classes, and these other type of classes. You have to be in the classroom for the majority of your major. So it's 2-semester sport, so when they play professionally overseas, I got a ton of guys who cannot get their degree until they are finished with their professional contracts. So they're hanging out there with maybe a semester to go. So people would say, oh, well, they didn't finish college. Well, you know, some of them have played for 10 years, 8 years, 5 years professionally. And as soon as they're done with a professional contract, because you have to show that for your APR, then they start to count again. But the federal graduation rate is 6 years from the time you start. And the really neat part for someone like me is to see these guys chasing their dream, getting a paycheck, and getting paid pretty well overseas, and then come back and then finish their degrees. So I didn't know if you were referring to like why people come in and leave or whatever. My guys are leaving in a different sense, more so than John's guys.
Right here in front.
Gennaro Armis with the Associated Press. Coach Ryan, with the amount of fun that your team seems to be having this year, how did that personality, the chemistry of those guys, how did that develop? And are they looser this year compared to last year as well?
Question for Coach Ryan.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I know how I'm perceived by some people is I'm actually a pretty funny guy.
No, you're not. You're mean.
You know, I'm a serious guy, but I also know what the other side is like. And as far as understanding that this is a lifetime experience in a small time frame of 4 years, 3, whatever the years are, and you may as well enjoy it with the personalities that are there. And you can either try to stifle certain things, or you can feed to certain things, you can enjoy certain things. But the fun that our guys have is all about their relationships and the things that they're interested in, the things they're competitive about. They have more fun with the bragging rights of video games, which is why I did the thing I did the other day. I made a statement that I was the pinball wizard of the state of Pennsylvania in the 60s, and to elicit one thing. Do you know how many of my buddies and how many guys have said, wait a minute, you weren't that good. I was better than you. When do you want to play again? So it did exactly what I wanted it to do. Just what these guys are doing when they get into their needling about who's the best video games guy. And so they have their fun, but believe me, when they get on the practice court and they're looking at film or they're playing in the games, they understand what competition is about.
Right here.
Tom Oates, Wisconsin State Journal. John, do you find with this whole one and done thing that the criticism is abating a little bit, either as time goes by or maybe other programs adopt the same philosophy?
Coach
Well,
Calipari.
It's just a different era. We're dealing with things in a different way, and you just have to. We all are. Whether we're me or Bo, if Bo has a guy that after a year is going to be a lottery pick, Bo's going to tell him, go for it. You got to do it. We're all in the same thing. And you don't know when you recruit a kid whether he's going to leave after a year. You don't know. I mean, you just coach them, and then they make a decision what they want to do. And we just try to make sure we make this about the kids. Now, the reason things are different, 20 years ago, NBA contracts were $125,000. Now, if you're a top 10 pick, it's $25 million. Your next contract may be $80 million. That's $100 million. It's different. We have to respect that. We have to respect these kids' genius. And I think Bo does, I do. We're just trying to develop young people. And I think people are looking at it and saying, one, we have great kids. Whether they chase their dream or not doesn't make them good or bad. We have great kids. The second thing is our kids are connected. Anyone that knows any of our players that are in the NBA, not in the NBA, they are connected, whether they stayed 1 year, 2 years, 3. We are family, and they know that. They stay in touch. They text. We talk to them. I'll go to games. They'll come in for watching games, and it's just different. And I think everybody's now looking at this saying, it's not my rule. Matter of fact, it's not the NCAA's rule. This is a rule between the NBA and the Players Association. And it's something that we can deal with in a way, let's just worry about me as a coach in my program. I'm not worried about them. And get them to stay. Force them to stay. Don't play them as much at the end of their year. So they got to stay. Or you let them run and make a decision on what they want to do. They don't always make the right decision now. Like sometimes they should stay and they choose to leave. Well, you got to live with that too, because it's their life, not my life.
Tom, can I add, am I allowed to chime in on that?
Go ahead, Coach.
Nigel Hayes, after he said he was coming to Wisconsin, and you can ask him this, said, Coach, now if I'm the player of the year my freshman year and I decide to go pro, is that okay with you? That's
No,
when I knew I had a young man that, are you serious, Nigel? I just said, hey, sure. I have no problem with that. And did I know how good he was going to become? No, but he wasn't MVP his first year. But, you know, by the time he's finished, he might be pretty good. But that's his sense of humor. When I was asked about how our guys, the camaraderie, the fun they have, Nigel's one of the leaders in there.
Right here.
Kyle Tucker, Courier Journal, down here in the middle. What has it been like to watch Willie grow up personally as a player, and for you, what does it mean to see him? He's going to sit up there on that stage here in a few minutes after not being able to experience the Final Four fully last year.
Question for Coach
I
Calipari.
had the veterans come to my office before we left, tell them how proud I am of them. And I looked at Willie, and I said, can you imagine, Willie? I said, tell these guys where I saw you play, in an AAU game. And he said, I don't want to remember. I said, how many points did you get in that AAU game? He got 2. And the guy who was guarding was like 6'4", or who was guarding him. He has come so far as a player, but more importantly as a person. He came in saying, you know what, I don't like academics. I'm going to do what you're making me do. He and I became a book club members together, and I made him read books, and he and I would discuss the books. And one of the things he said last year why he wanted to stay is I'm enjoying school. Well, that's what we're supposed to be about. This is about the love of learning, the love of reading, getting them to understand an educated man doesn't get robbed or fooled. If you think you're just coming here and then you're going to go get all kind of money, you'll be broke. You educate yourself. You understand how to read contracts. Those are things for these kids that I'm most proud of. And Willie now is going into his junior year. Here's a kid that averages under double figures and is one of the top players in the country because he's that selfless, is about his team, and it's a good part of what we do to see that kind of growth.
Right here, Jerry.
Jerry Tipton, Lexington Herald Leader. For both of you guys, how good is the overall talent on the 4 teams here, and how much is there sort of a pick-your-poison element in trying to design your defenses to stop all the players?
Coach Ryan.
Well, we played Michigan State and we played Duke. We played Kentucky our last game last year. What I can say about the talent is there's a lot of there's shooters, there's ball handlers, there's bigs, I mean, you can go from every aspect of the game of basketball and look at these 4 teams. There are guys who are just blue-collar guys that are there to rebound and play defense. There are guys that are there to score. There are guys there that can kill you in the post. There's guys defensively that can lock you down. I would say in this Final Four, having played all the teams within the past year, that there's a little bit of everything, and it's at a very high level.
Coach Calipari.
I think, you know, that because the talent level is what it is, I think we're all just worried about our own teams playing well. I just want my team. We're not going to control what Wisconsin does. They're going to play the way they play. We're going to play. I just hope my team plays well. And I think if you talk to all 4 coaches, when you say, Bo, we're just, I mean, I'm not, we're stopping Wisconsin. We ain't stopping Wisconsin. I just hope my team plays well. And then we'll see how it plays out.
Over here.
Zach Braziller, New York Post. In the Final Four game last year, Kaminsky struggled a little bit. Cal, what did you guys do against him so well? And can you use what you did last year at all Saturday? Well,
we didn't have Willie. You know, Marcus Lee played him some. I mean, we really played him with a bunch of different guys. I don't think there was one thing that we did. He missed some shots that he normally makes. You know, just looking at it, because I glanced at it again just to make sure, what did we do? You know, played like we always play. Dakari Johnson played him a lot in that game, and Marcus Lee was the other. I even think we put, I don't know if we put any smaller guys on him. I can't remember, but we know how good he is. I just saw him out in the hallway, and I said, look, I'm so tired of looking at your tape right now. And what I said to Bo in the back, we were laughing, how much better he's gotten in over a 2-year period is like almost scary, like holy cow. He and Decker both, I mean, they both got a swagger about them. They both have a high belief in themselves and their team, and they know how they're going to play. This is who we are. They do it.
Right here.
This is for both you folks. This is Will Hobson, Washington Post. This year's tournament is worth somewhere north of $700 million in television revenue for the NCAA. And by making the Final Four, both your squads have earned somewhere between $8 and $9 million for your conferences, which will go back to your departments to cover your costs, ostensibly part of your salaries. how much of that money, or should any of that money, do you think, go directly to your players?
Coach Calipari, start.
Well, I think it's taken the NCAA 30, 40 years, but they're beginning to change now. I mean, right now we brought parents to the Final Four for the first time. My opinion, which I don't give very often, I keep my opinions to myself, but in this case I'll tell you, my opinion is the parents should come to every round. Why should only the parents come to the final round? What about the other 64 teams that played in this? Why wouldn't their parents enjoy being with them? We changed the food policy. We now can feed our kids unfettered. Now, you won't believe this. We're not going to try to make them fat. We're not going to try to feed them too much, but we're going to feed them. And we're going to make it as healthy as we can, because that's what we're doing. I think what we're doing with the stipends, I think we now have to move to paying for their insurance. These kids have to pay their own disability insurance. It encourages them to leave early. Would you really want to have a $100,000 debt that you have to pay back because you were paying for your own disability insurance? We should pay that. If a kid stays more than 1 year, maybe the NBA or someone else should pay for the loss of value. You decide to stay longer, we'll insure you. Someone else to encourage them to stay in school, if that's what they choose to do, so they're not forced. I think the NCAA right now is moving in the direction they need to move. It's a slow-moving boat. But it was for 40 years, this is the way it is, and we're not changing, to where now they've been forced to move in the direction of these young people, and I think they've done a pretty good job here over the last year.
Coach Ryan.
Well, I know there has been changes. I've been on the board of the NABC. I've lost track of the number, but I'm now on the executive committee, which means I'm getting close to being the president of the Coaches Association. Cal's on the board now. We've been we've been discussing this for a long time about, even in the Big Ten tournament, parking in Chicago for the parents, driving to games. For the NCAA tournament, you gave the figures. I don't know the figures. You gave the figures. We've been asking for help for the parents to get to the games in the NCAA tournament. At least for the finals is where we started, for the Final Four. But then the more we talked about it, it's like for the whole NCAA tournament, that parents should have some stipend. And isn't it amazing that the men's basketball tournament and men's basketball period pays 90-some% of the NCAA's budget expenses, and football had a championship game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the parents get taken care of to go see their kids play in the football championship game? Somebody told me that, but I never had it verified. But John, if you're shaking your head and Hoops is agreeing with you, I'm not sure if I'm right. No. But okay, what I'm getting at is all of a sudden football goes to a championship game, and and for the men's Final Four, we're going to take care of the parents for that too. Oh, well, thank you. That was awfully nice, but we think it should be for more, and we've even in our own conference been trying to lobby for expenses for parents coming to the Big Ten tournament, because it isn't just going to be in the Midwest, it's going to be on the East Coast now. So right in our own conference, which makes money from the Big Ten tournament, that parents should get some help, some type of stipend.
The last question right here.
Jesse Temple, Fox Sports Wisconsin. This is for Bo. John just talked about how much growth Frank has had in the last couple of years. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, have you coached many guys that have grown as much as Frank has from start to finish when you got him to where he is now?
Coach Ryan.
No, not someone who and it's not the finish, because Frank is still getting better. And as soon as he gets some good coaching when he's out of college, he'll be really good. But he's worked at every drill. He's worked at everything we've given him. He's looked at the films. He's very astute when it comes to picking up nuances of moves and using his body, positioning. So, and his family background, there's athletes. His parents are very athletic, very smart. So we were getting a player who we knew was hungry and wanted to prove that he could get to be pretty good, and we tend to enjoy having those kind of guys around. And but for somebody to go to level he has from start to finish, no, I've never had a player like that.
Thank you, coaches. Okay, we are joined by the players, Travis Trice, Michigan State, Willie Cauley-Stein of Kentucky, Quinn Cook of Duke, and Frank Kaminsky of Wisconsin. Raise your hand and we'll try and get a mic to you. Please give us your affiliation right here.
Mick McCabe from the Detroit Free Press. This is for Travis and for Quinn. You guys played in your second and third game, third for Duke, second for State. What do you remember about that game, and does it have any relevancy, and how have you guys gotten better?
Travis?
Yeah, we watched a lot of film this last week on that first game, and just looking at all the turnovers and a lot of mistakes we have. Duke's a great team. They were great then. We feel like they're a better team now than what they were earlier in November.
Agreeing with Travis says, they're a great team. We're a great team. All four teams here are great. We played them our third game of the year, so still trying to figure ourselves out. I guess it was their second game. And we're two different teams now. They're way better. I feel like we've gotten better, and everybody's playing at championship level. So watch some film of that game, and more recently from how they've been playing, and they've been playing, as well as anybody. So we got our hands full tomorrow or Saturday.
Right here.
Willie, Kyle Tucker, Courier-Journal, down here in the middle. If you could just sort of reflect on the journey from the last 3 years here at Kentucky, from Cal saying just a minute ago saying he saw you score 2 points in an AAU game, and here you are at the Final Four. And also playing here, getting a chance to play in this Final Four after last year having to watch it.
Question for Willie Cauley-Stein.
Okay, one, you lied. I didn't only score 2 points. And, I mean, it's just crazy to think about, the last 3 years of losing first round in the NIT against Robert Morris, and then coming back and fighting a way to get back to a title game, coming up short, and having the chance to come back and do it again with the guys that we got. And, it's a special group. And, I mean, everybody on the team has a purpose, and that's how we play.
Right here.
Larry Vaught, Danville Advocate Messenger. Frank, just wonder if you could just talk a little bit about what you've seen of Willie Cauley-Stein by watching him on film and all, and then if you know anything about him personality-wise or anything like that.
Frank Kaminsky.
He's a great player. He changes the game in so many different ways, offensively, defensively. You got to know where he is on the court at all times. He's that good. From personality-wise, we were talking about Super Smash Bros. On the way up here, so I feel like we would get along.
Right over here.
For Travis. Travis, you've talked often about the journey and how far you've come personally. Are you able to look where you are today, and have you taken time to just appreciate how far you've come?
Question for Travis.
Yeah, definitely. Not only this week, but just driving in here, and even today, just all the media and all the things we've had to do. I'm just appreciative of it. After everything I've been through the last 4 years, it just makes it that much more memorable.
Dan Wolken, USA Today, for Frank. Usually not being familiar with opponents is sort of an X factor in this tournament, but you now face the third team that you played in the tournament last year. I guess one would be, when you saw the bracket come out, did you allow yourself to think at all about maybe, having this almost the same path you had last year? And then has that impacted the way your team's played to face Arizona again, to face Oregon again, and Kentucky again?
It does make it kind of a little bit easier. It's definitely not easy, but it makes it a little bit easier having seen opponents, because you get to see their sets, from a year ago. You have a scouting report that's just a year old, so it's not going to be easy, but Kentucky's a really good team, and we're going to have to prepare as well as possible for them. We know that they're different from last year, but so are we, so it's going to be a good game.
Right here.
Mark Armstrong, ABC 11 in Raleigh. Quinn, you've been a team leader all year long and kind of ushered the freshmen through the ups and downs of ACC basketball, but this now is all new for you too. Is your role the same? How are you handling this Final Four opportunity, and how are you leading the team at this point?
Question for Quinn Cook.
Yeah, my role is the same. You just continue to lead these guys. Obviously, no player on our team has been here to the Final Four, so it's all a new experience. We all, want to take it in and have fun. But at the end of the day, it's we're here, to win games, and just not to change. You just continue doing the great habits that we have continued all year, and just have fun.
Right here.
Frank, how did the personality and the chemistry on this team develop over the last 2 years? And then is it safe to say that you and Nigel set the tone for that in the locker room?
Question for Frank.
Yeah, Nigel's a funny guy. It's great being around so many characters on our team. It just makes this experience that much more memorable being around so many fun guys. And it's just been a great ride so far, and hopefully we get to stay here as long as possible.
Right here.
To maybe Frank, who knows more about Fred Heumann from WLNS in Lansing, to Frank or maybe other players who watched the tournament, I wondered if you've watched how Travis has caught fire. And Travis, first for you, Coach K called you last night the best player in this tournament. If you would start, Travis, how do you react to that?
Question for Travis.
I'm just thankful. I mean, that's the ultimate compliment, especially from a coach like Coach K, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game. But I just try and focus in and just do what my teammates need and what our team needs to win. That's all that's going through my mind when I'm out there playing. It's just what do I need to do to help us win.
Frank, could you talk about Travis?
Well, we've seen Travis twice this year, and we know how good he is. We know how he can inspire his team. He's the leader of his team. He knows how to get his guys going. And in that Big Ten title game, it was tough chasing him around for so long. And you saw against Virginia in the tournament how he got hot to start the game and really set the tone for his team. So, he's a great player, and he's doing a great job leading his team.
Over here.
Mark Tracy, New York Times. This is for Frank and Willie. Who do you each prefer to play in Super Smash Brothers, and why?
Frank, please.
Who to play with?
Which character?
I've been trying Captain Falcon recently, but he's really slow, so I haven't been doing well. So I think I'm going to go back to Kirby.
Willie?
I play with Kirby. Just because he can change. He can change into anybody he's playing against, and he flies around. So when you get knocked off the little stage, you can just fly back, and you don't have to worry about jumping.
Back in the back.
This question is for Frank Kaminsky, John McCann with the Herald-Sun newspaper, Durham, North Carolina. Frank, your team is a fun bunch. Do you feel like the guys are tightening up at all here at the Final Four?
Question for Frank.
Yes and no. We played Super Smash Bros. In our hospitality room in our hotel last night for a while the barber was in there, and we were just chilling, hanging out, and having fun. But right when we get on the court for practice today, it'll be all seriousness. So we know how to flip it when we need to.
Back here.
Chris Hagan, Fox 59, Indianapolis. This question is for Willie. It might be strange for some folks to see a UK guy right next to a Duke guy, but you can tell you guys know each other through the years. You play against each other before you get to this point. Not exactly the hatred the fan bases may have, but what's the mentality for your peers up here? Respect, admiration, what would you classify it as?
Definitely respect. Just the road that everybody's gone through to get here, especially at the beginning of the season when, they said that this is going to be the people in the Final Four. And it's just crazy that it's really those are the people in the Final Four now. But, just a great respect for, each one of these players up here and their teams. Like, each one of us is something big part of their team and the way they run things. And it's really just a good respect.
Over here.
Matt Norlander, CBSSports.com for Willie. Over to your right, Willie, right here. You played Notre Dame, tremendous offensive team. Wisconsin rates as the best team on offense in college basketball. So what do they do better from what you've seen on tape as opposed to Notre Dame? And do you anticipate that you're going to guard and get primary duty on Frank come Saturday?
Question for Willie.
Us watching film, they run angles a lot. So one of our biggest things in the Notre Dame game was giving up back doors and easy baskets, and they utilize that. They kind of pride themselves on, exploiting people's weakness and taking over from it. So, that's our biggest thing is not giving up, easy baskets and not letting them play angles against us.
Over here.
Greg Logan of New York Newsday for Willie and Frank. Willie, you were the one running down with Jerry and Grant against Notre Dame. You showed your versatility there. Is it possible that you could play out on the perimeter against Decker. And then for Frank, if Willie is out on the perimeter, they still have a lot of other big guys on the inside. What is the difficulty of playing that many big guys?
Willie?
I think, you know, with the guys that we have, we're going to do a lot of switching anyway. So not one person's going to be on that set player during the whole game. So, you know, everybody's in practice been guarding, you know, guards and bigs. We're just kind of ready for everything.
Frank?
Having so many, tall, athletic players on their team, it definitely doesn't make it easy. But at the same time, we know that we're going to be able to get some stuff just like they're going to be able to get some stuff going on offense. So it's going to be a battle. We know that. It's not tough. What do they have, like 7 guys over 6'10"? So it's going to be fun. I can't wait. It's not going to be easy to prepare because obviously there's no scout team in the country that can replicate what they have on their team. So we'll just be prepared for whatever.
Back in the back.
Frank, it's Lance Allen from WTMJ in Milwaukee. A lot of the coaches' talk was about your development, and Bo even said he's never had a player that's taken it to the level that you have in the last couple of years. What do you point to? What factors do you say, or what factor do you have in your mind to say when in your development to take you to where you're at?
Frank?
A lot of it has to do with, if you look at these guys and the success they've had in their college career. I just wanted that for myself. I wanted to work as hard as I could to get to this stage and be a good player. It definitely wasn't easy, but I was willing to put in the time and the effort and the work to do so. It's gone better and better than I planned, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of work left, and a lot. I think I can still improve on my game and improve, on this season.
Right here in the front.
Tom Oates, Wisconsin State Journal. Willie, you guys had so many freshmen last year. Has it been easier kind of pulling together as a special team this year with some sophomores and even an elderly junior such as yourself?
Willie?
Definitely. Especially the way, Coach Cal coaches, it's really high, it's really quick. So as freshmen coming in, you have to learn stuff at a way faster rate than other teams do because they have so many guys that have stayed. And this year it was like that. Like we had, the majority of our team that had played under him before, so we already knew what, the expectations was and everything like that. So it made it a lot easier.
Right here.
Zach Braziller, New York Post. Willie, you didn't get a chance to obviously play here last year. Do you think you would have made a difference against UConn, and how excited are you to play in the Final Four?
I'm super excited to play. It's a dream. When you're young and you're playing in your driveway and you're playing one-on-one against yourself, this is the moment that you're playing against. So it's definitely a dream and a blessing to be here. But I can't say that I would make a difference in the game. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't, really tell you that. But I would like to think so. But I can't really say on that.
Back in the right here.
This is for Travis Trice, Jennifer Hammond, WJBK-TV, Fox 2 Detroit. What do you love the most about this team, Trav, and what makes it so special, both on and off the court? And additionally, if you can follow that up by answering how you think you guys have changed the most since the first time around against Duke.
Question for Travis.
I think our camaraderie is what's really gotten us to this point. We've kind of had an up and down year if you look at some of our losses. And I think just staying the course, really, and never losing faith in our team or our abilities. But I think that speaks, to your second question. We're constantly together. Like they said, like Frank said, the hospitality room, we were there till 12, 1 o'clock last night. You literally got to fight us to get away from each other. And I think that's a good thing, and it helps us in close games.
Right here.
Aaron Beard with the Associated Press. This is for Travis. You guys played, obviously, earlier in the year. What were your memories of Justice Winslow and kind of the versatility that he brings to be able to play on the perimeter or play a guy inside?
He's definitely a matchup problem. He played well early on. He kind of hurt us when we played him the first time, but he's gotten a lot better since then, too. But I think it's their entire team. They're a totally different team in a better sense than they were when we played them the first time. And that's why we've been studying film so much.
Over here.
Quinn, Mark with ABC 11 in Raleigh again. How do you suppose this experience, and it's still relatively fresh for you at this stage, obviously, is different for you as a senior than what it might have been as a freshman? And how do you think the prism you're taking all this in is maybe different than what the freshmen on this team are enjoying right now?
Quinn?
You know, I'm like a kid in a candy store here. You know, obviously, it being my first time. You know, I've had 2 early exits in the first round. You know, and losing Louisville in the Elite Eight. You know, seeing those guys cut the nets down and celebrate. You know, and guys, you know, remembering that who were on that team. So, I mean, it's a blessing to be here, especially, you know, with these 3 guys. I mean, you know, these 3 historic programs, 4 historic programs here. It's just, you know, a dream come true for myself, and I'm just blessed to be, you know, where I am on this team, because we've been through a lot this year, a lot on the court, off the court, and we always had trust in each other, and Coach never, you know, gave up hope, and has always encouraged us. So I'm just blessed to be up here. Yeah, I mean, it's the Final Four. I mean, you know, everybody doesn't get here. I mean, it's a blessing, you know, to be one of the 4 teams remaining. So I think those guys are having fun as much as I am. So it was one of our goals to get here, and you know, we got a tough game on Saturday.
Question was about the freshmen. Right over here.
Jesse Temple, Fox Sports Wisconsin. This is for Frank. You had a great run through the tournament last year and then had a tough game against Kentucky. But what did you learn about yourself from that Kentucky game that maybe you took with you into the offseason?
I learned that maybe I wasn't as good as, you know, I thought I was, you know, at that point in time. You know, just going against, you know, a team like theirs when they have so many elite players on the court at all times, I just struggled and didn't play as well as I wanted to, and I think that was a big driving factor and motivating factor to get back here and, you know, try to play better than we did last year and hopefully come out on top. You know, it's going to be way tougher than last year, we know that, but, you know, we're going to do whatever we can to do so.
We have time for a couple more right here in front.
Matt Sharman of Detroit News. This is for Travis. When you look at the other teams and a lot of the star power they have, and you even hear Tom sometimes talk about this team might not be as talented, is that something that motivates you guys a little bit more when you hear those things and see the kind of the star power of some of these other teams out there?
Question for Travis.
Definitely. I mean, like Quinn said, I mean, these are 4 elite programs, but I mean, the other 3 teams here are all #1 seeds, were kind of picked. And they definitely have more McDonald's All-Americans, a lot more star power than we do. But at the same time, I feel like that's kind of what has drove us to get here, to kind of us against the world mentality. And that's really helped us get through this season.
Right back in the back.
John Rose, Blue Devil IMG, for each of you. How do you feel about the growth of your team in the NCAA tournament? What's the slope of that line look like?
We'll start with Frank.
I feel like we've grown a lot in the NCAA tournament. You know, we've gone through a lot of adverse situations so far, and we've responded and, you know, played well enough to obviously get here. You know, and it's been a great ride, and, you know, hopefully we can continue on the success we've had so far.
Willie?
Like what Frank said, you know, we battled through a lot of adversity, kind of up and down. You know, playing the first round against Cincinnati and Notre Dame having a nail biter. So it's been, you know, kind of up and down for us, but as a group, you know, guys just stick together and stay the course, and we're able to come up on top. But, you know, to be in the situation we're at now is unbelievable. It's crazy to think that, you know, last year after we lost, guys went back to the hotel and said we're coming back. Like, we got to, you know, make it back to the tournament, and it's just crazy that it really came true like that.
Quinn?
Agreeing with Willie and Frank, you know, it's been a tough road. So we had to grind out some games, you know, against Utah. You know, we couldn't hit a shot. Against Gonzaga, you know, we had to get some stops, and, you know, we couldn't miss a shot at the end of the game. I mean, we've all had different paths, and, you know, for us to be here is a blessing, like we all said. And, you know, I think we've grown just, you know, on the defensive end, you know, taking pride and getting stops, stringing some stops together, withstanding people's runs, and staying poised and staying together. So just agreeing with these two, it's just, you know, unbelievable to be here, and, you know, I just think I'm thankful for it.
Travis?
I think adversity is what's gotten our team to this point. Midway through the year, we were on the bubble, and people were questioning whether we were going to get into the tournament. And I think just because of that, we've been together, and I think we're just peaking at the right time.
And our last question right here.
Audrey Dahlgren, WLNS from Lansing. This is for Travis. Earlier in the week, Coach Izzo had talked about the bus ride and what it would be like to be on it coming down here. How was it different maybe than any other rides that you've had before?
Question for Travis.
Well, I slept most of the way down here. But it was kind of cool. We actually stopped at Dave & Buster's on the way, right outside the city. But you could just tell guys were excited. And we're just really just trying to take it all in. I mean, we're all blessed to be here. And we're just trying to take it in and be appreciative of it.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.